Difficult. Women. Hello.
Hi.
Howdy, hi.
Howdy there,
Howdy,
stranger.
How's it going?
It's going great. I'm Katie, by the way.
Oh.
Who are you? I haven't seen you in so long.
I know. I am Marie, and together, this is the Difficult Women podcast. And boy, do we have some opinions.
Today, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but we are in panic mode. Just a little bit of like rage/panic.
Yes.
With some of the new news that's been popping up.
That's right. But so we're hopping on, guys. We're still doing the podcast. So if you're still with us, please rate and review us, follow us on Patreon, all that stuff, because we're still here. We're not going anywhere, but we have been very, very busy working on our album. I know we talk about it and we have been talking about it for a while, but it is coming. And you guys, we just finished mixing it. It's going to go to our master in New York City, who's a woman who's an amazing musician herself. So we're getting very close to that. So that's going to be saving the world any day now.
Yeah. But in the meantime, we'll pop out a little baby cast any chance we can. Speaking of popping up babies, if you've been following the news, we're all going to be popping up babies, whether we like it or not. If the Republicans have anything to say for it.
I love this transition.
Yeah, I'm just working it. Roe v. Wade is in danger of falling apart. Probably is going to happen. But what do we do about it? Should we panic? Should we scream and tear our hair out? What do you think, Marie?
We could. I don't know if that would help. You know?
No, it won't. That won't help. Screaming into the void isn't gonna just memeing the same meme over and over on Instagram isn't gonna help.
I love that. That I love the same meme over and over again.
It's more cathartic for me than anything else.
It's true. There are some really great memes floating around. But no, so we wanted to just hop on with our very, very good friend. We have a friend that we met years ago thanks to Liz Winstead. Liz Winstead, I believe, was one of the original
creators of The Daily Show.
Right,
yeah.
right.
And she started a group called, at the time it was called Lady Parts Justice, and we had been asked to do a song and perform for a fundraiser of some sort that they were having. And we ended up meeting this wonderful woman and a bunch of other lovely ladies. And she's now, that project is now Abortion Access Front, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right. And Liz Winstead is
and she's still
Liz
doing
is still doing it.
Things with that.
Yeah.
But we have today our good friend who we met through all of this abortion rights advocacy work.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we have one of our dearest friends in the whorehouse today, thanks to Zoom. Ladies and gentlemen, Julie Rosing. All right, so I want to just dive in and say, when we got the word about the leaked documents about Roe v. Wade possibly being overturned, which it will probably, I immediately wanted to call you. So
call me anytime.
Thank you so much for stopping everything and hopping on a podcast with us, because we've been such huge fans of all your advocacy through the years. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been a pro-choice advocate.
Well, first of all, I'm like a little baby minnow in like the world of pro-abortion, pro-choice, and like the repro justice movement. I started working for, back then was Lady Parts Justice, is now Abortion Access Front. Abortion Access Front was my kind of foray into the movement, and it was all based around comedy content, breaking stigma. And then we started doing a lot of like clinic outreach, and we were touring through the South, through the Midwest. We would do comedy shows with communities, connecting them with clinics in their area and helping them be like, hey, these are the people that directly in your area that you need to like support. And we do a lot of like outreach to the clinic escorts in the area. We'd go and like do clinic escorting at different clinics throughout the country. And that was always really eye-opening, because every clinic has like their staple protester who, like, I think one clinic in Raleigh, they were like, we got Denim Dan, so we got to meet Denim Dan, who's there every day. He's dressed head to toe in denim, and he just screams insane shit at the clinic. But so that was, I think when you become more like personally connected with an issue, meeting people that are like in the trenches, that are really doing it, not for a ton of money, obviously, like not for status, like it's purely because they care about the people in their community. Like that, I think really ingrains an issue in you. So from there, I just in like doing the work and being connected to all of the different organizations, kind of realized that there was, my other work is all around like online marketing and online content, right? So one thing that I kind of realized was that the space online for women to get information about, laws that are happening, where clinics are, it was all very disjointed. Everything, the one website that existed, it cost money for clinics to be on it. It wasn't well run. It wasn't mobile friendly. There were a lot of things. So at the time, I started just putting it out there to everybody like, hey, don't we think like a website needs to exist? Don't we think like something that's mobile friendly, that is easy to understand, we had ZocDoc, right? Like in New York, that was like,
use it all the time.
That was like how I found my doctor, right? So I was like, there needs to be a ZocDoc for abortion. So I started just having millions of conversations I knew some people that were in the programming department at Warby Parker. And I was like, talk to me about like what needs to happen for this website to exist, all these things. And then like, you make enough noise, you get connected with the right people, right? So I was connected with this other woman who had won a abortion hackathon for this exact website. She had like mocked up, I forget what she had called it at the time, but she had mocked up a website that would be essentially this. And they were like, you two should talk. And so we've really, at the time when we started working together, it was very much like, I don't know you, you don't know me, like figuring out like who we were with each other. And we both knew that we just really wanted this thing to exist in the world. And so it kind of started out very scrappy. And we tried to get funding in different ways. And, when you're two random people, like, come on, trust us with your money. like, come, we can do it. They don't want to give you any money. They don't want to give you anything. They're like, nope, we don't know who you are. And so for like the first like 4 or so years, it was a lot of like her calling me and being like, we gotta just keep going. And she is like a brilliant like programmer and developer, and the things she's been able to do and create with this website are absolutely astonishing. I am 100% just her emotional support cheerleader who's just like, let me know what I can do. Call me for jokes, and I my role right now is I head up our partnerships with different organizations, and the name of the website is ineedanacom. Over the years, we've also just gotten in the habit of collecting URLs. So we own a lot of different possible names of other websites, but it's all in just, just so the antis don't get them,
Right.
But yeah, so she's incredible. Her brain works in a very different way from mine. She's very smart. But I've learned so much from her, just in a business sense and in the way of like creating something amazing and putting it out into the world. So yes, ineedanacom is now the most comprehensive space online for anything you would need to access abortion in your area. So we don't track any information. We don't hold on to any information. You enter your zip code, when your last period was, your age, and it populates with the laws in your state, your closest clinics, your abortion funds, other practical support organizations that you can reach out to. And it's really just incredible. And obviously, in the last week, our traffic has gone up substantially.
Wow. I mean, and what an incredible thing. I mean, we talk a lot on the podcast about like, what are practical things that we all can do as individuals to like help a cause, right? Because like freaking out is useful only to so so far of an extent, right? And this story you've just told about this website is just mind-boggling to me, because that is exactly the kind of stuff that people can do. I mean, and different things, right? Like that's just one thing that could be done, and you like really stepped up and took a part in something that was like really going to help a lot of people. And that name, I didn't even realize that you had been a part of that website, but I'd been seeing it popping up all over the place lately. Mm-hmm. So that's really exciting. That I'm just so proud of you.
From the very beginning, I mean, a lot of people are really, obviously very bummed out about this, what's happening. Obviously, 1,000%. Of course, I'm sad and upset. But I think the pro-abortion movement is in such a great place to handle this. We're so much more connected. Organizations are communicating more than ever. It really used to feel like everyone was in a silo doing their own thing, like, I don't know how much Planned Parenthood talked to the National Network of Abortion Funds, like there's a million different acronyms of like pro-abortion organizations. It's crazy, They're all amazing. They're all doing incredible work. And it makes sense that they were kind of siloed because, the work it's hard. It's a lot. It's stressful. And so it's really hard to take time to be like, hey, who wants to chat?
Yeah.
Like when you're like in the trenches, like really doing the work, like it's hard to be like, you know what, we should go talk to the people over there about what they're up to.
Right.
But anyway, everyone's a lot more connected now, which is cool.
But isn't that also like how we can make changes for anything, any issue that we need to deal with, is that we need to become more of a community and not like, I remember like during the Pussy Hat days or whatever of the women's marches and stuff, and how at first everyone was so united against this, united together to fight for, women's rights and all. And then you started hearing about these factions that are like dividing the movement and like we're not coming together. It's like we have the power of all these human bodies, human beings who want to be working together to fix these problems. But if we're not coming together to actually put our resources together and work as a unit, as opposed to these like, independent sort of silo things. That's what's also especially interesting about your website.
Well, like you're 1,000% right. That's why I feel like of all the times when the Supreme Court could have like ruled against abortion access, of all times, we've now had so many false alarms that I think people that weren't activated before, people that weren't comfortable talking about abortion access before, are now more engaged than ever, which is like, to me, like a positive thing, like, I don't know, like when the whole Pussy Hat thing was happening, right? Like I remember having conversations about abortion with different family members back in Ohio, or like friends that, tout themselves as very progressive. And it was really hard to get them to even say the word abortion, So like I think of all the times when we could have been dealt this blow, I think we're really prepared for it. Obviously getting it leaked first is great, because now people can really be like engaged and enraged and ready for June whenever this comes out. But yeah.
Well, that's one thing too. We always, we talk about this kind of shit on the podcast all the time, but like, I hate to be a Pollyanna, but one of the things that I am really, really hopeful for is that this happening now the way that it is, like this hopefully will mobilize people to vote during the midterms. And,
for sure.
In a way that I'm not sure we would have had that same steam going for us prior to that. It was not a lot of things weren't looking good for the left.
And I think people are paying more attention to their local elections, like, and it's gotta be more than just your governor and, the other congressional seats. It has to be like, who's on your city council, because like they're on their way up.
Yeah. Well, what do you, I was curious your take on like what this alarm, like you were saying that we've had lots of alarms and lots of fears and things come up. Like, what is this one feel different to you in terms of like,
well, yeah, for sure. Right. Like,
or...
I don't know. I feel a very weird sense of like calm in the way of, now California is getting ready to add abortion access into their constitution, right? So it's pushing for actual concrete legislation. When you think about Roe v. Wade and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she obviously wasn't on the Supreme Court when the decision came down, but she criticized it as what Roe v. Wade was decided on the precedent of life. Every person has the liberty to privacy over their body, kind of a thing. So it didn't necessarily in a concrete way protect the right for abortion access. And so she kind of always thought that was a weird case, or not the most concrete way for the Supreme Court to decide abortion access. Also at the time, Roe v. Wade, it struck down abortion laws in a bunch of states. It immediately made a bunch of states get rid of their abortion laws, which she felt did a full stop on what the actual democratic process would have been in the evolving laws around abortion access. So it was the Supreme Court was nope, we've decided abortion is legal after viability, or up until viability, and that's it. And so that's when things became very contentious, and it was became very politicized, because you had these politicians that were well, look, my state is very anti-abortion, and we've got all these anti-abortion laws, and now you're telling me that what we've been doing and what my constituents want is null and void. And so they kind of came full force against Roe v. Wade, and it gave them something to work against. It gave them something for years to be we need to get rid of Roe. And they want to give it back to the states, which full on sucks, right?
I'm so glad I moved to Tennessee just in time.
I know. Oh my gosh. It'd be really hard to move out of a blue state now, I think, just in general. But no, yeah, it very much sucks for people in red states and these states where these trigger laws exist, where abortion is going to be banned. That truly sucks. And those states are going to see repercussions that they're not even considering. Missouri has 1 abortion clinic, and they have 75 crisis pregnancy centers. So you just think about these states where abortion clinics are going to close, and the alternative is going to be these religious-based crisis pregnancy centers that give false information. They promise all this help and diapers and da-da-da and all these things, but they don't actually have the resources to help someone. Let alone, they don't consider the fact that not every person wants to put their body through that.
Right.
And childbirth is scary. The maternal mortality rate in the United States is crazy.
Yeah.
So for them to not even consider that is, I don't know. It's frustrating. Went on a rant there. Sorry.
No.
We love a good rant, girl, on this podcast. Come on. Something that I learned the other day. So I went to my first abortion rally in Tennessee on, I think it was Monday. I don't know what day it is now. I've just been rageful all week long. But and I was nervous. I was shaking. I was actually just, you think of the worst thing that could happen possibly, and that's just these crazy people in Tennessee showing up downtown as well. So I was aware of these emotions and feelings, and feeling very anxious and kind of shaking when I was walking up. But then I just saw a sea of people, mostly women. Come on, men, we need more men. But it was really a powerful rally, and they had definitely a wide perspective of speakers and activists and Congress people and all that sort. The mayor spoke, which was really funny because the microphone kept cutting out on this old man. But the thing that really stuck out to me that I hadn't even thought of was that, when Trump was in office, they passed the Real ID law. So that's coming into effect next year. So you have to be able to get, everyone who flies has to get a real ID. What this one was talking about is these undocumented immigrants who live specifically in Tennessee, she was talking about. They can't get the real ID, obviously. So they won't be able to fly anywhere if they need to have an abortion. They can't get a driver's license because they're undocumented. So they won't be able to drive anywhere to get an abortion. Then we have a community of people who are really at risk, and it's just forcing them more into poverty and just putting more. I just had never, obviously as we all know, this type of thing, like if I need an abortion tomorrow, even though I'm in Tennessee and whatever happens will play out, but like I'll be able to get on a plane and come to LA or New York City.
You have the resources.
I have the absolute resources. But it really affects Black and brown communities, and it truly just, it's so, I feel like I'm just I'm so against big government at this point. And I feel like we've known about this now, the Democrats, we've known that this was coming into play. Like I even thought about like the Real ID, like is this something that they were thinking about too, like years ago when they made that big grand decision of that all people who would fly need to have this type of ID? Is this like a little plan that they're all, I don't know, I'm going into a weird place, but
well, no, like, isn't it crazy? You say that you're like against big government, but isn't that the bedrock of being a conservative? Like,
yes, I know.
You don't want the government in your life.
Yes,
that's why
this is so crazy.
As much as I freaking hate Tomi Lahren, and I have so many problems with everything, she's so cringeworthy, and I cannot stand her. She is fairly pro-choice because she just wants the government not in her life, like, which. Yeah, like 1,000%. Like that's how it should be.
Well, the mask thing is almost the same. I mean, not almost, but
it's insane.
It's
right?
just
the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is crazy.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. My heart breaks just for people who are less fortunate. People.
Yeah. Well, and I think that what it comes down to is like, yes, big government or however you want to label it. But I think that again, like I think the bigger, greater issue is that we have a problem in the United States about community.
Yes.
We never put the community first. We put money first. We put power first. We put corporations first. We put, even this idea of like rugged individualism with the masks shit, it's like, that's not a community choice. That's a choice about someone feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Abortion, having access to abortion is about the community. It's about supporting the community. But it's like, that's where like if the government is useful if it can be supporting the community and the citizens of this country, but that's not what the priority is in the government.
It's power.
Yeah, I mean we've seen how like the economy benefits from having women in the job force, in like the workforce. So, what do they think? Right. A single mother of two who is holding 4 jobs, who, has been taught abstinence-only education, doesn't have access to birth control, like finds herself pregnant again because sex is fun. We have sex, like it's, right. What do they think is going to happen to her and her children? They're going to, potentially have to go on food stamp. I mean, they forget how connected everything is.
Yeah.
I will say, Marie, like, when you talk about like, when you talk about like what's happening kind of in these like border areas, there are organizations that are like working and actively helping those communities. And so it's just like when you learn about that stuff, like they might not be as loud, but I mean, I can't think of the name of one off the top of my head.
Well, I just learned one in Appalachia, like in East Tennessee, like in the mountains near where like Dolly Parton was born. There's a small, I think it's called like Tennessee Mountain Access Fund or something like that. But like they're specifically serving the mountain community. And to be honest, it's a lot of rape and incest, which is
terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. But I didn't know that existed.
Ohio's about to, or they just put up a law that would ban abortion even in cases of rape and incest.
Yeah.
Which, like, to me is like, how can you justify that?
We're just vessels for babies. We're just
and that's that thing. I mean, I've been seeing, so like there's been so much rage on the internet, understandably so, as there should be rage, but that rage, it's like, how do we direct it? I was thinking the other day, I was like, what's my rage level? I was like, I feel like I'm sort of like supernova level, where it's like the star is now like imploding on itself before it like explodes. Cause I'm also kind of in this weird like calm state before the like, I think my head explodes. But one thing that I was seeing just about all the rage and stuff on the internet is what do we do? What are the steps that we can take? And also like, the fighting with people about like, when is life start and da, da, da. I'm like, it's not about that at the end of the day, you know, especially for like the court justices and stuff and the government people. For individuals, there might be people that really want to fight for like, oh no, but it's a baby. But the people that make the decisions.
That's such a religious based idea. You know what I mean? Like Judaism, they believe that the soul isn't present until the baby is separated from the mother. You know what I mean? Like, so we can't get like,
it's just that
it's so frustrating because it just very much highlights the deep seated like Christian overlords in government, you know, like we're all supposed to believe what they believe.
Right. Yeah. I have a big question because the Republicans that are in power, do you think they've just been spouting all this stuff all along just to get their vote, but really don't believe it and never really thought that it would happen? But now that we have these people in the Supreme Court that will vote it down, like, are they like, oh, fuck? Because I
think that they don't. I think that they want to maintain power. So if they think people are going to vote for something, they'll say whatever they have to say. And I think that like if they need abortions, that's not a problem.
Right.
They're always going to have private doctors to get abortions for their mistresses or whatever. But I did see an article too about a woman who voted for Trump, and she said it was like an op-ed or something in the Washington Post, and she was talking about how she had voted for Trump and everyone had been sort of like after her, like, how could you vote for him? How could you support him? He's, you know, a monster. You've sold your soul to the devil. And she said in the op-ed, she was like, this is why. Now I get what I want, which is to eliminate abortion from America. And I was like, oh my God. So people were, there's a lot of people that were sort of holding their nose through the Trump stuff because this is exactly what they were expecting. This is what they wanted to make sure that they got their Supreme Court nominees pushed through because this is what they wanted, you know?
Yeah, I think more and more, I feel like this is going to push people to be more extreme on the issue of abortion rights. Like before, people used to be like, you know, I just don't want it to be used as a form of birth control. And it's like, which I just have such a huge problem with that because, so if someone's pregnant and they weren't given birth control and now they find themselves pregnant and they know they can't support a child, the consequence of them not using the right birth control is now raising a child.
Right.
What an insane logic. Like,
and I don't know. Speaking from personal experience, it's usually the man not wanting to wear a condom. So
1,000%, right?
Fuck yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the people who existed in that space are going to really they're going to have to choose to like be a little bit more extreme in supporting abortion access than maybe they weren't necessarily comfortable doing previously. But we like more and more live in these like very different worlds of America, right? Like in these super conservative areas, Christian beliefs are like law. They just are. You know what I mean? Like the idea of abortion is so unfathomable to them that like until like they personally know someone, their views will probably never shift. Like until they have like an experience of like needing, you know, miscarriage care and their Catholic hospital refuses to help them and they have to go to an abortion clinic. You know, like that's when their views might change, you know, like that very much happens. Like there are hospitals that like refuse to do the procedure that is needed for like when someone's had a miscarriage and they get sent to the local abortion clinic. So like, I don't know. It's just like, that's the thing that is like, that really is scary to me is like where our country is going to, and some of these states are going to have to go before they can start leaning back to abortion access.
Great. Yeah.
Like I mean, like this is crazy, right? Like, what was it called? The Reproductive Health Act in New York, right? Up until 2019, abortion was still in the criminal code of New York State. Whether or not, like, I mean, we're all like, yeah, abortion in New York, like, come to New York for your abortion. But like in the criminal code, abortion was still a criminal act. And so like, you had these activists that were pushing and pushing and pushing for years to have the Reproductive Health Act passed. And it just passed in 2019. And so now New York State has like protections for abortion access in the Constitution. And that's like, to me, that is like mind blowing that and had that not been in place and, you know, potentially Roe would go back, abortion would be illegal in New York State. Like it's so, you know, I think about that and it kind of, that's why I feel like this is going to really inflame and push activists in the right direction of codifying abortion rights in state legislatures. And it's going to take a while in red states. It's going to fucking suck for a while. We're really going to have to help people cross state lines. We're going to help them access abortion pills by mail. But like eventually we will, abortion rights will be a federal thing. I really feel that in my bones. Because, I mean, well, think about like other social issues, right? Like gay marriage or like, I mean, trans rights are, that's a questionable one to jump into because we're seeing those fights at the state level, right? We couldn't imagine like if suddenly on a federal basis, like certain trans rights were taken away. That would be insane. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, there's so many things. And something that you said, there's something that you said that also just reminded me of something that I just wanted to bring up too, which is just that like I am seeing on social media, at least in my circle, I am seeing more men speaking out, which is really awesome. And I think that we should always be encouraging men to ask questions and speak out against these pro-life people, or they're not pro-life, but you know. But the other thing I would love to see more of is I want to hear more men's abortion stories. I want to hear more stories from men talking about how, and I know a couple, and I'm not going to out them because that's not my place, but I know a couple people that I've not been hearing from that I know have benefited from abortion. And I would just love, that would be something that I think would be also very useful to like center it around men a little bit, because like that's how some of these men think. So you have to like help them out a little.
Well, I'm just gonna get real personal. I was dating a guy for a couple months here in Nashville. We are no longer together, but he had 4 abortions with 4 different women. And
in Tennessee.
Yes. Maybe 1 in California. But yes, I think the majority in Tennessee. I know. Yeah, he's telling me this as I'm lying naked in his bed. I'm like, okay, all right. Somebody's got some Spider-Man spunk. But like we had this conversation while naked and I was really vulnerable, having just had sex with him, unprotected sex. He pulled out. Full disclosure, but it's not fully whatever.
Yeah, pull.
Yeah, you know. Well, guess what? I immediately went to my doctor. I mean, we talked about it of just like, because he was really concerned I wasn't on anything, and I was like, we got into I'm laying naked in his bed, starting to fight about why the fuck won't he get a vasectomy then? He does not want children. He's never wanted children. And then he's turning to me and saying like, well, would you ever consider getting on birth control pills or, you know, and it just so happened at that time I was having a lot of issues with fibroids and I had just had surgery and my doctor was really recommending an IUD for me to balance out the hormones and stuff. So that was on the table and I was thinking about doing it anyway. His Spider-Man spunk like got me to the gynecologist to get that inserted. But after, I remember laying there before it being, you know, my doctor came in and I started crying and I was just so upset that I was all of a sudden in this position because I really liked this person and he had put this burden on me directly. And this was just a couple months ago. And I want to call him and like be like, dude, out of everybody I know, you should be downtown protesting.
Yeah,
you should be
minimum.
At minimum,
right? If you're at minimum, you should be saying, yeah, that we need that he would have 4 children right now.
Yes,
You know,
he is
a man who says he doesn't want any kids would
Right.
have 4 children right now.
Right. So this burden of all the birth control always falling on us women, it makes me it breaks my heart. And like, I'm 40 years old and I'm still heartbroken about how men are handling birth control. You know, like there's still guys that like don't want to wear a condom. I mean, I don't technically like wearing condoms either, but, you know, like this is absolutely terrifying now in Tennessee. Like I am now looking at sex very differently.
But even honestly, like I understand if people don't want to all like jump on the bandwagon and get vasectomies because they're not, you know, there's reasons like there's not quite as reversible, although I am very pro vasectomy and all that stuff. More importantly, I think with this issue is like just speak out.
Right.
Just show up.
Right.
You know,
have you benefited from
up.
this? Right.
That's it. I mean, I'm not even asking you to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy for them to like hide in the shadows, and there are people that speak up. There, one of the activists that was at the forefront of the getting the Reproductive Health Act passed in New York was a man whose wife had to fly across the country. It was that 30, I don't know if you remember the article that came out. The couple wrote about them having to have a 36-week abortion to save the woman's life. Mm-hmm. And he like took that up and hit the two of them as a couple together. They're just this great power couple that like were a huge part of getting RHA passed in New York. So like, I mean, it's fucking hard, right? There's so much shame and stigma.
Yeah.
And like,
unlearning.
I think,
yeah.
Yes. And like, you know, there's so many things I would love to be able to openly talk to my dad about, but like, you know, how's that conversation going to go? Like, I've tried so many times to like have conversations about like intense social issues, and not that he's not there for it, but like especially like Midwest, like in the Midwest, there's these pockets where it's just not as diverse, right? Mm-hmm. It's just not as diverse as we've experienced in New York and Los Angeles, where like, you know, when I lived in Astoria, it's like the most diverse community in the country. Mm-hmm. So like, you know, you'd be on a subway sometimes and you're the only white person. So like you very much have to understand and embrace the differences of the people around you. Right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And empathize with them and like recognize them as like human beings. But like, you know, somebody in Ohio, when I talk about my thing about my parents, like, yeah, they care about social issues, whatever, but like their main goal is being the best grandparent possible. So like, you know, they're going to baseball games, they're going to, you know, like I've tried so hard to like have these intense conversations with them, and I still will, and I'll still push them on these issues. But, it's to me, I feel like the work is reaching those people in your life that like have never thought about like, will I ever need abortion care? You know,
right. Like, do I know people that may die from, you know, childbirth because the abortions are illegal, or, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was
just going to say, my dad doesn't think women should mow the lawn, so we're still there.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I also like men, I don't know, like, do they like read up on these issues? Like, I feel like maybe we're getting there, like that they're being pushed a little bit more than they used to be. Like,
I think more and more, I'm certainly seeing some men speaking up in a way that I did not see before. And I'm very like, good on you. We see you guys. We do see you. But I also see the ones who I know could be saying something. They'll speak up for other things that affect them, right? But then they don't want to, and this does affect them. That's the truth, is that this does affect men. I think that's the other thing that's like worth really putting out there, is that this affects all of us. And it affects all of us whether you have an abortion or whether you know someone has an abortion or not, because it's a community issue. It's about like, it's going to affect the economy. It's going to affect, you know, your neighbors. It's going to affect like, you know, population numbers and like, just a million things.
It's all connected. You know, like this big project I was working on recently was all centered around climate change. And I now like have anxiety attacks when I walk into supermarkets because I'm just like, it's future trash. Everything is future trash.
Yeah.
We're destroying the world.
Yeah.
But like, you know, when you talk about like what is the lack of abortion care going to do for population growth?
Right.
Like, and
Right.
resource management, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too to me, like when you were saying the about you know, how the undocumented people in America, how they're going to be at more risk of having to be forced birth, right? These are the same people who are so mad about the undocumented people being here in the first place, and
Right.
now they're going to be forced to have more children. Is that what I mean? Even that, like,
Right.
that's a fucked up argument, but you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And,
It's like
you
none
know,
of
we're
it makes
just
any
gonna-
sense. Make it make sense.
Over the next, 10 years, we're just going to see more like environmental refugees, people coming here because there's
Yeah.
no more water in their countries. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we don't need more babies that shouldn't. That you know, we're not. I don't know. I'm also.
I mean-
anti-baby. I'm not.
well, yeah. Oh my dear. Woo. Yeah. I don't know. I'm definitely, the more I see the friends around me have babies and like learn about what it did to their bodies, that's like the whole nother thing. The more you have like real open conversations with people who have had babies,
Yeah.
who have given birth, you're like, whoa, I do not want that.
My friend's butthole like popped out. Like I was like, what the fuck? I didn't know that happened. What happened to your butthole? She was like, it popped out.
I think that if people talked more about what childbirth was too, I think a lot less people would have babies. But that's nobody. You know, I know that they don't want that, but I think
This whole thing, it makes. Did you read the tweet from Matt Gaetz where he was like,
yes,
where he was like, all these rallies, these women are just going home, loveless, overeducated. I was like, what?
What the?
what the fuck are you talking
You're
about?
insane. Oh my gosh.
Meanwhile, he's like trafficking 17-year-olds over state lines. So
Oh yeah. The hypocrisy of the moral code amongst these people is crazy.
no, it's
Well, I still get worked up. We were asked to write a song for, I believe it was like, and I'll just say it, it's for College Humor / like Comedy Central. It was like a musical comedian top 100 in the country or something like that. It was going to be on TV, and they asked us to write a song. And Katie was like, what if we write a song about, condoms? And like, we wrote this little tiny ditty about condoms.
It went, wear a condom, wear a condom, wear a condom on your penis, please. We don't want a baby, we don't want a baby, we don't want a baby or a disease.
Yeah.
So
Wear a condom, wear a condom. And they said it was too dirty. And they cut us.
What?
They said
Yeah,
it was
they
too
wouldn't- they
dirty,
wouldn't-
and they cut the song.
And I
from
think consciously, I think we even wrote that song specifically being like, there's no bad words. It's not a
yeah,
dirty
we were
song.
so excited about it because usually we're
But
like,
we're-
gang,
we're
bang,
not allowed
finger,
to talk
butthole,
about that.
But
Yeah.
no, but we can't. That's
But you
too
can talk
dirty.
about but you can talk about finger banging a bitch.
Yeah,
no problem.
Yeah, or
That's not a
slapping
problem.
her ass.
Yeah,
the
slapping her
hoe.
hoe. Sure.
Yeah,
that's
but
fine if you're a man.
but making a boy wear a condom because you don't want a baby,
Unacceptable.
And we even said
Yeah.
please in the song.
We said please.
But they wrote back, sorry, it was just too inappropriate and dirty for what we were looking for or something. So they actually had our video in, like, they edited us in with no sound.
What?
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that at
So
the gym
lame.
the other day, and I got so worked up about
Well,
that.
isn't it?
So
Aren't
it's a
they pretty
bigger
much
pitch-
null and void now? College Humor, aren't they pretty much gone? Or do
Yeah,
they still
we
exist?
took them down.
No,
No, just
I don't
kidding.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah. Then I won't ask nicely next time.
But that's dudes being like, that's not funny.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, okay, great. So, but that's what we're up against, or I mean, it's ingrained.
Well, it's. I was thinking about I like back in New York. You would find yourself in the need of Plan B, and I remember my experience going to the pharmacy and I had left my wallet at home or something, so I didn't have an ID, and I was like, look, I'm gonna I forgot my license, but I had like money. And they wouldn't give it to me because I didn't have a license. And so I had to go back and I had to ask a coworker. And I was like, look, I think I'm pushing 72 hours at this point. I'm getting a little worried. I just need to do this before I get home. Like I'm freaking out. I can't focus. So she had to go and get Plan B for me to take. And like, I just think about how now we have abortion pills by mail. And it's like, hey, all right. Like, access has been expanding. Like, no matter how many times, like, they can close clinics, they can enact these laws, but like, abortion is still going to exist. People are still going to have access to it. It is very safe. Abortion pills are very safe. You know, like, so like that to me, like, I think what we're going to see happen is I think Democrats are going to push for legislation that at least protects abortion pills. And then from there, you know, it might be a slow process. I mean, it fucking sucks that we're back here kind of starting over again. But like, there's a little bit more fire and a little bit more like, let's get this in like stone.
That's, I think, a great point too. So maybe, yeah, and I do always like to look at sort of like what's the bright side here, but and that's a point I wasn't aware of until very, very, very recently. But how like Roe v. Wade was kind of on, you know, thin ice anyway in terms of being like a real thing. So yeah, so maybe this is a good chance for us to like to really solidify some rights to our bodies.
Yeah, well, also, you know, like the last few cases they took to the Supreme Court were like, abortion clinics have to be ambulatory centers, which is absolutely insane. Abortion is like a 5-10 minute procedure. And, you know, so like they were just trying to attack access any way they could. And so like now Roe's gone, the floor's gone. So now we can rebuild again, and we're not just coming for like, there was someone that quoted, and I hate that I don't remember this person's name, at one of the rallies recently. They were quoted as saying like, you know, we're not coming for what we had. We're coming for like even more what we deserve, like true abortion access. So like, you know, there are people that have been in this movement for a really long time, and they're obviously not going anywhere. Like, so I don't know. That's what kind of gives me a peace of mind a little bit, is like we're a collective, powerful movement that is on the right side of history, that is going to like really make change for future generations.
Yeah. Well, one last thing, there was an activist who spoke at the rally downtown, and her must have been 5-year-old daughter was no more than like 6 feet away from her. And so the woman was giving this such a powerful speech about her experience and her story. And her 5-year-old daughter just was like waving at her mother the entire time. And then it ended up being in the newspaper, a picture of it. And that is what's beautiful. I do think our future is bright, especially with these young people. I feel like an old person, but the young people, the next generation's really gonna. But I mean, the old white crusty men just gotta go. They're dying off. And I really, I have a lot of faith, and I don't want to put too much pressure on them, but I think that we are, like you said, like there's a lot to do, especially in Tennessee, but I think we're, it's gonna be good.
Like, geez, literally a moment that is like, you know, that moment of seeing that little girl wave is like, it's like you put it in your pocket, and when you get fucking down, you pull it out, and you're like, that's right. There are future generations, right? So like for me, one of the coolest fucking moments in regards to like fighting for reproductive rights, when I think it was when the Home Women's Health v. Hellerstedt, when that was happening, we went to the Supreme Court for this rally. Abortion Access Fund went down there, and it was my first like big like repro rights rally, and like hearing abortion providers, people from like all different like nonprofit organizations speak. And there was one specific doctor, she like was up there and she pointed over to the anti people, and she was just like, when your birth control fails, we got you, you know, like, and she just kept saying that, like, you know, this is a very like, the pro-abortion movement is it's a movement built on love and support and empathy for your fellow man. And like, there was one, like halfway towards the end of it, they asked us to turn to another person in the crowd, someone we didn't know, and say like, your freedom is my freedom. I forget exactly the terminology, but like the person who was doing the ASL, for the whole rally, she just turned to me, or no, this is what she said. It was like, turn to the person next to you and just say this to each other. Your liberation is my liberation. And it was like one of those moments that like still gets me emotional today. Cause it's like,
yeah. No, we're only as free as the most oppressed person. Yeah. You know? And so your freedom is my freedom.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. It was like she was like signing it at me and saying,
so
your
nice.
liberation is my liberation.
Yeah.
And it was just like one of those moments where I was just like, oh my gosh, like I want to be on the side of history that is about supporting people to like reach their full potential, have bodily autonomy. Like that's the side I want to be on. And that's, those are the people I want to support with my work. So.
And you are doing it, and you are doing it. And that is so inspirational just to even see what you can accomplish, you know, and that we should all be so proactive.
So everybody check out Julie's website, ineedanacom. Check that out. And then where else can people follow you and stay in the loop? Because you do post a lot of very necessary information that I think our listeners would like.
Yeah, my handle is at Canarda Bayback, at Canarda_Bayback. It was my grandmother's imaginary friend, and I just always loved that name. And so, like, she would always talk about like her times with Canarda, and so I just thought that was so sweet.
I love that.
So yeah, you can follow me. Follow I Need an A. Follow the Abortion Care Network. They're an amazing network that supports independent clinics because, yes, Planned Parenthood they provide an amazing service, but the majority of clinics and areas that are going to be affected, their only source of access is through independent clinics. We Testify. That's an amazing organization that like puts abortion stories out there, really breaks stigma. Abortion Access Front is doing some really awesome stuff right now too. But yeah, just find your local groups, find your people. A lot of times people want to be like, all right, my 5 friends, let's build something. Let's make our own thing. And it's like, no,
you don't
it
need
already
to,
exists. So I guarantee you someone out there is already working on this. Go and like support them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also like I have something else that like I really want to start looking into is just like getting friends together and talking about their insecurities around talking about the topic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because there was a huge curve for me in getting comfortable talking about the topic. I came from a very Catholic family. I was very close with my great uncle, who is a Catholic priest, who like, yes, I have, I no longer identify as a Catholic. I have my own problems with it, but like he was somebody I loved. And like, so I had to wrestle with that as far as like, how do I have these conversations and how do I talk about this? I felt like I had this kind of like dual life for a while. And so like, it's a hard topic, and just like being like, hey, does anybody want to get together, drink wine, and just like talk about how we're going to talk about this issue? That's a great thing to do too. You go to a rally and then you go to happy hour and you talk about like, I loved this point that someone made. I loved this fact that somebody shared. Those are good. That's like some good, fire when somebody comes at you with like their crazy thoughts. When you're like, yeah, but, 60% of Americans support abortion access. So we can't say that like our politicians are speaking for us.
Right.
Well, I'm still crying a little bit, but thank you so much. I just adore you and everything you do and represent.
I mean, I am such a small little piece of this. You know what I mean? Like once you really get into it, and there's people that have just been doing this for so long, and they're not going to stop. So that's, you just kind of hold on. I'm just like on the back of the train, just let me join for the ride.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, if anything, I'm just like let's keep going.
Yeah.
The hype man.
We need a
hype man.
We need a hype man.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for
thank you,
joining
Julie.
us today.
Yeah. I love you guys.
Love you.
Love you.